We chose this day because today is International Women's Day, and it's been celebrated since 1911. So it's been more than a century celebrating this day. It started in Europe and now it's celebrated all around the world. And there has been many improvements since that happened because of this celebration and because of many other protests and events and all the fight that women did. But we still need to improve more. Women are not allowed in history, and they've been silenced, held back, abused, and invisibilized, among other things like rape and murder. But well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that another day. German composer Clara Schumann said, "I once believed that I possessed creative talent, but I have given up this idea. A woman must not desire to compose. There has never yet been one able to do it. Should I expect to be the one?" In history, history is not only full of oppressors in different fields, not only gender, but race, sexual orientation, and many other things. But it's also written by the oppressors. So it's in our hands, and I think we should rewrite history, because this means not accepting oppression, and we need this visibilization of, in this case, women, because representation matters. We are here in the middle of downtown Palo Alto, and we are surrounded by 27 streets named after writers, and they're all men. This is an insider info, maybe you know, I think you don't, but well, I'll tell you. The names of these streets, the wise men who chose the names of these streets weren't these, they were all called Pinus. So, but it was a little bit confusing to say, like to say, I live in Pinus Street, and it was like, oh, which street is Pinus Street? Pinus Street number 9, number 11. So they decided to change that for writers, and of course they have to be male writers. Because they preferred to choose names of writers, of men, whom not even their mothers have heard of, over choosing women. I mean, instead of choosing Charlotte Bronte, they chose Joseph William Addison, because, he was more famous. Or they chose William Cullen Bryant instead of Jane Austen. Or they chose William Ellery Channing instead of Emily Dickinson. Or they chose Charles Kingsley instead of Mary Ann Evans. You know who Mary Ann Evans is? Well, she is George Eliot, because she had to use a male name to be able to be published. And this is very common, how many women had to choose pen names that were male, to be listened to and to be valued and to be published. Even today, she's published as George Eliot because that was her name, right? In my case, I'm a writer too, and I've always loved literature. I've always read a lot of books, and I've kept a list for many years of the books I read. So when I got to 100, a couple of years ago, I realized that I looked to my list and I realized that out of those 100 writers, only 3 were women. What does this mean? This means that since I've always wanted to be a writer, I wanted to read the best authors. And what they told me the best authors they were all men. There are no women in literature books at schools. So I wanted to read the best men, the best writers, and they were all men as far as I knew. Of course, I've changed it, and now I read a lot of women now. We're here, surrounded by by Writer Streets, and we're in the middle of Palo Alto. And this plaza has been traditionally famous for free speech and for music. And since we need more public space named after women, we'd like to rename this plaza Linen Plaza after a woman because names are important. So what we need is more female role models in our streets, in our schools. We need our kids to know women. And the streets and schools are taken by men. We have all of these male references and we need women. This is very important, especially for kids, because the message girls get are, we can't do it. We should do something else. And boys think, girls can't do it. Girls should do something else. So, I have an example. A friend told me a few years ago, and I heard it from many men after that he doesn't read books written by women because he can't relate to their stories. You know, women have been related to male stories for centuries, and I think men are smart enough, right? They can also relate to women's stories. Jewish American activist Gloria Steinem said, women are always saying, we can do anything men can do, but men should be saying, we can do anything that women can do. Come on, guys. Come on, you can do it. You're also smart. So our tasks here today are to talk about women and to try to rename places after women in order to visibilize women. This is absolutely necessary. We need their role models. For example, there are many different fields where I'm sure you don't know many women. I'm sure you can count them on one hand only. For example, how many female scientists do you know? How many female composers do you know? And I already gave you Clara Schumann, so we can have one. How many female American presidents do you know? I mean, in this case, people prefer to vote for anything, literally, but a woman. It's very, very sad because you actually can picture more women grabbed by the pussy against their will by American presidents than actual female American presidents. We all need female role models because it's the way to equality. And we have a lot of great local women in our community that we're going to talk about. We have great women who are going to talk about, and I want to shout, name her too, after the names I'm going to read here. Okay? Joan Baez?
Name her too.
Esther Clark?
Name her too.
Ellen Fletcher?
Name her too.
Barbara Babcock?
Name her too.
Brett Anderson?
Name her too.
Jennifer, Everhart?
Name her too.
Lucy Estern?
Name her too.
Dana Tim?
Name her too.
Okay, so now a lot of these women are going to read some information about women of Palo Alto, and hopefully today when you go home you will listen to some music by Clara Schumann, you will read some Emily Dickinson poems, and you will vote for a female president in the 2016 election.